Hello, good evening, and welcome to episode 310 of the Gersnet Podcast. I'm John McCallum, I'm your host tonight. Gersnet Podcast is the independent Rangers podcast made by fans for fans, where the content is free. Now, it's not just the podcast we have here at Gersnet. There's the forum, we've got articles, there's social media, the history archive. If you enjoy the pod, please, I would encourage you to subscribe. We don't miss them. They're coming thick and fast just now as we get back after the January break. We're all limbered up, we're all ready to go. With the sunshine on our backs, and the podcasts are coming thick and fast. There'll be another one on Sunday, which I'll tell you about at the end. Now, none of this would be possible without our sponsors, so very quickly, let me talk about Forrest Precision Engineering, who are a subcontract Glasgow-based engineering company. They're a big commercial sponsor of Rangers and have been for many years, and we are delighted that they are backing our pod. Now, you can find out more about them at forrestprecisioneng.com. And as I always say, if it's not your thing, if you don't need precision engineering, then perhaps you would be interested in the Forrest Precision Executive Lounge, which is a hospitality area within the main stand. If you want to have more information on that, if you'd like to look into booking it, or just find out more about it, contact the club by email at hospitality@rangers.co.uk. Okay, so I'm joined tonight by Scott Bradley. The very recent past, Scott has interviewed Matt Warburton. He's interviewed former Rangers coach Neil Banfield. He's interviewed Billy Davis, Mixer Patalainen. And yet tonight he gets to talk to me. I don't know if I've seen a career go downhill quite as quickly since Morelos left us, Scott. But welcome. It's nice to meet you. Thanks for joining us tonight. How are you?
I'm very well, mate. It's a pleasure to be back on.
Good. We've got quite a bit to talk about tonight, and we've only got half an hour to do it. And you know, Frankie is a stickler for time, so we'll jump right in. We're going to have a wee chat about a good night's work at Easter Road. We'll have a chat about our new signing, or our nearly new signing, Mohamed Diomande. Is that how we're saying his name? I haven't actually heard it pronounced yet, so I'm having a guess at it there. We'll have a quick chat about the retirement of Steve Davis, and a look ahead at tomorrow's short drive up the M8 to Paisley. Let's start with Hibs. Let's start with Wednesday night. And for once, Scott, it seems that we have returned from the winter break with a bit of form. It's 2 wins now, both away from home, albeit one was against Dumbarton, who are maybe the hardest team we'll play this season. But Easter Road, you know, you always have to be at your best when you go to Easter Road. Hibs did have chances, but in the end, it was fairly comfortable, and we were pretty dominant all the way through. And I think we could have scored more. I think if Hibs had got one, I think there was more goals in us. Scott, is that as well as we've played domestically this season?
Oh, 100%, John. I would 100%. And we can see ever since Clemontis came in, the performances, they've not like set the house on fire, but we've been getting the job done. But on Wednesday night, that was hands down his best performance domestically. Because going into that game, I was nervous because obviously Hibs have got a new manager with Nick Montgomery, who I rate a lot, and they're going through like a transition phase right now. So I didn't know what to expect. But if I'm being honest, it pretty much was, if I dare say it, a breeze. It was very comfortable. The game was done and dusted by half time, with Todd Cantwell getting that goal. And yeah, it was a really good performance. And of course, Hibs did have their chances, but of course, Jack Butler made some fantastic saves, and we are very lucky to have him. And I want to speak about him as we speak about more in detail about the Hibs game. But overall, it was a great performance, and I was delighted with it, because going to Easter Road in the past has always been a struggle. It always has been. And Hibs are always, they always tend to be up for it because they're no big fans of Rangers, of course. But yeah, I had no complaints whatsoever. And yeah, hopefully we can build on that in terms of like that performance in particular. Because as I said, since Clemontis came in, we've been getting the job done, but sometimes it's not been a pretty watch. Like, I'll even pinpoint one game as well where we went to Tynecastle, where Seema obviously got the winner. That was a very nerve-wracking game where we're like, oh, thank God we got the 3 points, just get the 3 points, get out there. You know, so hopefully we can build on that. And I think Clermont is wanting a bit more than just getting results. We need to put these teams away because, for example, under Michael Beale, we would show some of these teams far too much respect, whereas Clermont doesn't. He knows we need to go in there and be ruthless, and that's what we've done on Wednesday night.
Yeah, and it was interesting because with Goldson out, I was a little nervous about how the defence would be. But as you said, I guess any defence that has Butland behind them That gives him that little bit more confidence. And once again, he proved he's been the outstanding signing of the season by a long, long way. In front of him, Yilmaz started. And let's be honest, he played pretty well. And I'm going to have to put my hands up here because unfortunately it is in writing. I am not Yilmaz's biggest fan. I had pretty much written him off. It may well turn out to be that I was wrong. He played well. He scored a lovely goal. But what I want to touch upon is the fact there's been a lot of speculation about him in January, linked with a move to Italy, linked with moves back to Turkey. Probably of all our players, he's been the one that's had the most speculation. Would you like to see him stay at Rangers? I know we're linked again. I see links today with a Brazilian, or tonight with a Brazilian left back, which Barisic is out of contract at the end of the season. So I think we would all be surprised if Barisic is offered another contract. But Yilmaz obviously got quite a bit in his contract. So would you like to see him stay at Rangers?
I've been very hot and cold on Yilmaz, John. I'm the same as you, where like one game he'll be brilliant, next he won't be, then he'll be injured. And the thing that really sticks out for me with Yilmaz was his first season at Rangers, where he barely played. He was so injury prone, and he still has that in his locker. And we spent £5 million on him, right? And if you said to me a month ago, yeah, I would be like, yeah, sell him. But see now, because we're coming towards the end of the window, what I would do is I would keep him until the end of the season, right? And hopefully he has a good run of games in the second half of this campaign. And when it comes to the summer, we can actually get a better fee for him than we would right now. I don't see much point in selling him just now because it is obviously coming up towards the end of the window. And he did have a good showing on Wednesday night. And he has got some good attributes to his game. Defensively, still has some questions about him. His final ball, I'm not too fond of at all. If I'm being honest, I think Barisic's final ball is so much better than Yilmaz's. Yeah. But I would just see it out until the end of the season because if he has a decent half this campaign, we'll get more money for him. Then we can recoup some of that £5 million fee that we spent on him a couple of years ago. And overall, I'm still not being entirely impressed by him but I feel like some Rangers fans do get overly excited by one good game that he has, but then they seem to forget about his past as well, how injury prone he is. And I think we're at that stage now, obviously, and you agree with this, where we can't afford to keep players on the books that are always injured. We just can't do it anymore. And it's been a common theme for a number of years now. And the players that are injured, like, for example, Ryan Jack, Kamal Roof, we like them. They're good players, but they're always injured. But and obviously, as you're saying now, we're about to bring in a boy from Brazil. I think his name's Jefty, I think that's what you say. I'm not very good with his pronunciations.
Jefty. Look, his name is actually like all Brazilian something Silva something, but he's been getting called Jefty. Yeah. So he sounds like he's from Sight Hill, actually, rather than from Brazil.
So he's 20 years old. I've done a bit of digging into him tonight. So he's 20 years old. So I like how we're going for young players, something that we didn't really particularly do before. So and as well, we're looking at a different market as well. So he's young. He likes to get forward. He's powerful. He's got a strong tackle in him. Obviously, from the clips that I've seen, it's very hard to judge just by watching a few highlights here and there. But he does look like he could be a good fit for this Rangers team, especially going forward.
I mean, you have to assume somebody somewhere's done the homework on him. I'll be honest, I was a little underwhelmed when I mean, I'd never heard of the guy. I think he's played 18 first-team games his entire career. He never played in Brazil. He didn't make it with De Fluminense's first team, which in itself is not, it's not a huge criticism. And he's been playing in Cypriot football since the summer, which isn't a great standard. So it would be quite a jump up. My own impression, having never seen him play, simply being that, is that he's probably not ready for our first team. And it may be that if we bring him in just now, it's with the view of getting him some time and building him up and maybe looking at him being the starter after the summer. But what do I know? Clement doesn't like players who are injured either. And I suspect that goes against Yilmaz a little bit. But if he can stay injury-free, who knows? Talking about somebody who might not be a favourite of Clement, Todd Cantwell. It's hard to know if he is. You sometimes get the impression that Clement doesn't like him very much. He's maybe just not his type of player. But I don't know if that's true or not. Cantwell's been hot and cold this season. He had a great start to the club last season when he came in. He really did look like a great signing, but he hasn't really pushed on. There's been moments, but it's been erratic. He's been injured as well. He's had a couple of games where he's get taken off because clearly he's not doing what we want him to do or what Clement wanted him to do. But he started on Wednesday, and again, I actually didn't think he had a great match. He was only on for a half. I didn't actually think he had a great match, but he scored an absolute cracker. And that's the thing with Cantwell. He's got the ability to win you a football match, even if he's not playing well. And he has that ability. He's another one that I've seen and heard rumours that he might be leaving the club. Would you cash in on him, or would you persevere with Clement? And more importantly, what do you think Clement will do?
Well, this window, I don't think we should sell Cantwell. But I do agree with you. I think Clement isn't his biggest fan, and I think you've seen that in the Limassol game when he brought him off, not even before half time. And obviously Cantwell was very upset about it, because obviously, of course, any player getting subbed off before half time will be very upset. But he has been very hot and cold. And that game on Wednesday night, he didn't play well, but then he got the goal towards the end of the first half. But the one game that really sticks out with me with Cantwell this season is the Celtic game. That's where Rangers players get judged, right? Yeah. And he was non-existent. And his stats for the position that he plays in this season are not great. 4 goals and 3 assists. For a number 10, it's no good enough, to be honest. Because look at some of the numbers that the Celtic players are getting, like Matt O'Reilly in midfield. He's scoring goals for fun at the moment. And we were looking at Todd Cantwell. He's meant to be our playmaker, especially in that final third, and we're not seeing enough of that. I wouldn't sell him this window, but these 6 months are going to be crucial in terms of going forward. If he continues this current form that he's in right now, where he's very, very hot and cold, and he's not really contributing a lot in terms of goal contributions and even goals, I think Clement will just cash in on him in the summer, because I don't think he wants players that are going to be consistent. Doesn't want players that are just going to be hot and cold, inconsistent that way. But I do rate Cantwell. I do like him, and you can tell he loves the club. I think he's clear as day. He's got talent, but right now I don't like giving this comparison. But right now I'm seeing he's reminding me a bit of Josh Windass right now from the 2017-18 season. I'm getting that kind of impression where, because I don't even remember where there were spells where Windass would not have good games, then out of nowhere we get a goal, and that would paper over the cracks. And that's what's happening right now with Todd Cantwell, where, as we said on Wednesday night, did not have a good game, but gets that goal, that kind of papered over the cracks a wee bit. So yeah, he needs to start doing a hell of a lot more, because he has come under a lot of criticism this season, and rightly so. And we've seen that wee celebration where he obviously put his fingers right up to his ears. So he's very well aware of the criticism that he's receiving from the media and the support, and it's totally justified. But he really needs to buck up his ideas, because I've not been impressed by him, and Clement's not going to put up with it. So yeah, for the next 6 months, John, it's going to be massive for his Rangers career.
Yeah, I think you're right there. The thing I'd say in Cantwell's defence, I don't think we've been particularly strong up front this season. Our summer purchases, Danilo, Dessers, Lammers, Danilo's had injuries, but Dessers and Lammers, neither of them, and we'll talk about Dessers in a minute, but neither of them have really clicked. And ultimately Cantwell, he can't do it on his own. He does need players to work with. McCausland has come in quarter of the way through the season. Seamuth has found form, but even the midfield behind him has been a bit, we've never had a consistent midfield behind him. And I suppose that does affect a player like, if you're a playmaker, if you're looking for knowing where a player's going to be, knowing where a forward's going to make a run, and if it's, if the forward is either not making that run, or it's a different player and you don't know. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. It would be very good if he found a bit of form. That would be enormously helpful. Silva started, and I thought he played quite well. He's got a wonderful first touch, and he's a different type of forward. He's a kind of forward we've needed. It reminds me a wee bit of Roof, actually. Very mobile. A player who does a lot of running. He'll be a lot of fun for defenders to come up against. I don't think he's going to be prolific. I don't think he's that type of forward, but I think he is the kind of forward who will create space for other players and who's a hard-working kind of guy. But he's not the guy I want to talk about, because Dessers came off the bench and scored. And it was actually a really nice goal. It was such a cute finish, I thought he didn't mean it. But when you watched it again, you realise, no, he absolutely did. And it was the only place he could put it to score, because he was surrounded. And it was actually a really cute finish, and fair play to him. Without being funny, is the bench Desser's best position? And what I mean by that, and I know that sounds like I'm having a cheap go at him, and I am. What I mean by that is that we've seen enough of Dessers to know that he actually isn't that mobile. He isn't great at holding the ball up. He's not great at playing with his back to goal. And for a big, strong-looking man, he's not particularly physical. But coming on with 25 minutes, 30 minutes to go, up against defenders who are a bit tired, who've been chasing Silva all over the place, actually might play to his strengths, because the type of forward he is, I think that was demonstrated on Wednesday night. And a couple of times he's come on for us off the bench and he's made a difference. He's a different type of forward. So that's what I mean by that. Do you actually think this actually might be the making of Dessers?
That's a very good point that you make there, John, because see, Dessers, I've said this for a long time, like as you said, like we all know what we're going to get with Dessers. We've watched them long enough to have a strong opinion on him. But see, Dessers, some of the criticism he gets, I think, is quite unwarranted, right? Yeah, it's very frustrating. But yeah, I think that there definitely is a player in there, right? And I want to just obviously touch back on what happened against Real Betis, right? When he skinned about 2 or 3 Real Betis players, then nutmegged the goalkeeper. Like, unbelievable. You can't be a bad player if you're pulling stuff off like that, So, yes, for a big guy, he's not very physical. He's not, if you get me, he's not a pretty striker to watch.
No.
He's not very good. But in terms of, his link-up play is not very good as well. But as you said with Silva, though, his work rate's tremendous, right? He just does not stop running, and he's not going to be a player that will be your talisman, right? But he will be a nuisance for defences. And if you bring on Dessers for the last 20, 15 minutes, he will be a pain. He will be a pain in the backside for a defence. So Dessers, I put it this way, I think in front of goal as well, this is one thing that really infuriates me. He overthinks it too much. When he is one-on-one with the goalkeeper, he's got an opportunity to shoot, he just overthinks, panics, and doesn't bother. I don't know, it's almost like he just has a brain freeze and just does not bother having a go. And it's so infuriating. We've seen that against Celtic as well. We've seen it all season long. So just have a pop, just like the fans are just screaming for you to have a pop. And that's the thing that's annoying as well. But the stats don't lie. 11 goals he scored this season. I think he scored in every competition that he's played in this campaign as well, which is incredible. But yeah, I don't. He's very hot and cold. He's another one as well. Like a lot of players.
He's cold and lukewarm.
Yes, that's the best way.
I'm not sure he's ever been hot, but he's had his moments. I'll give you that.
Yeah. But yeah, I do believe though. That's a very good point. I think going forward though, maybe start Silva. Who knows, right? Because Silva, I think, obviously he's got a good reputation from down south. So far, so he's came up here to try and rebuild himself. So that's the thing with Silva as well. If he just needs some more match minutes under his belt, and who knows, he might become a very good player for us. Yeah. But yeah, that's a very good shout that you made about obviously bringing on Dessers the last 20, 15 minutes, and he can be a right nuisance for a very tired defence.
Listen, last point on the Hibs game, it's a kind of more general point. John Lundstram, he was most people's man of the match, and he has really found form again under Clement. We're seeing the John Lundstram that we saw in the run up to Seville. That John Lundstram has come back, and it's very welcome to see him. Now, I don't know, Lundstram's those kind of players. I don't know if he was playing with an injury for periods of last season. He certainly wasn't the same player that he'd been the season before. But he's looking more like himself, and has been now, I think, since Clement came in. He's out of contract in the summer, along with a few other players. What would you do? Do you keep him or do you let him leave?
I would keep him. See if you said to him at the start of the season about this, I'd be absolutely no chance, right? No chance. I was just so disappointed with the way he performed the last 6 months of last season. But ever since Clemontis came in, he has been a different player. He's playing like the way he was under Giovanni Van Bronckhorst in the lead up to Seville. But yeah, he's been a breath of fresh air. And if I dare I say it, he's been probably our second best, our second or third best player this season, easily. He's just, like, he bossed the midfield in Wednesday night. He controlled the game so well. Lovely assist for Yilmaz.
That's a pass that has been overlooked.
It was
really difficult pass to make that.
Yeah, and he's been like one of our more consistent players this season, and he's been the heartbeat of the midfield. But what I would do, right, I would definitely give him a new deal, but I would give him a 1-year deal with an option for a second one. A lot of people raise their eyebrows when I say that, but the reason I say it is because
probably John Lundstrom's agent would be the one who loses the most.
Yeah, I know that's the only wee slight hindrance, but the only reason I would not give him a 3-year deal, because I might be totally wrong, right? But that's just me being quite, I don't know, I'm a bit nervous about it, because we know what happened in Gio's last season, where obviously he might have had an injury, but he wasn't the same player as he was the season before. But the reason I don't want to give him a 3-year deal is because I've got the worry that he might down tools and be like, okay, right, I've got my contract now, so I might just kind of not go as hard now, you know. So that's my only concern. But if he got a 3-year deal, I wouldn't be upset about it. But personally, I would like to just give him a 1-year deal with an option for another one, because if he has that 1-year deal, then and also with the one with the option for another one, that means he'll always be motivated to be like, okay, I need to make sure I'm on my best game to fight for another extension. So if he has a 3-year deal, we'll be like, okay, I can down tools a little bit. So that's what I would do personally. But as you said, his agent might have a lot to say about that.
I mean, it's from what I understand, I don't have any personal insight into this, but I've spoken to people who say that Lundstrom's gone native. And that he's settled here, his family's settled here, they really like it here, and that his preference is to stay. He is in no hurry to go back down to England. So he's a bit like Tavernier and Goldson have done. They've settled, they found a home, they enjoy the football, and he's he's done that as well. So
yeah, can I just say one thing as well? Actually, Lundstrom, I watched a podcast with Lundstrom. I think it was last year. And he was saying that he would love to finish his career with Rangers. So, yeah, he's definitely settled up here. You'll want to stay. But that's just me being obviously with that thought in the back of my head when I'm just like, what if we give him a 3-year deal when he downs tools? So, but yeah, you never know. Listen, I don't think Clement will accept any passengers though. So I think we'll be all right.
Scott, he would not be the first player who, in the run-up to his contract expiring, suddenly looked like the best player in the league. He would most certainly not be the first player that's happened to. So, yeah, who knows? We'll see. Just before I move on to the next subject, I need to just very quickly mention our friends at Football Prizes. So if you could just check out Football Prizes, their latest competition is a 1972 Rangers shirt signed by the squad, the Champions squad. I'm assuming it's the Cup Winners' Cup squad, and there's also an Andy Gorham signed and framed T-shirt. And how you get these is you spend £3.95 on a ticket, and there's a maximum of 165 tickets available. So you've got there's decent odds there, and the prizes do look nice. If you have a look at Frankie's Twitter, he's put that on his Twitter, and it's signed by Willie Johnston, Colin Steen, Derek Johnston, Willie Matheson, Dave Smith, Alfie Conn, and Alec McDonald. So go on and have a look at that if you want. Now, spoke at some old people who've worn our jersey there. The next person who's going to wear our jersey is a young man called Mohammed Diomande, I think is how we're pronouncing his name. He is our latest signing, although I think it's one of these how to get round FFP, where he's actually coming on loan and then we're signing him in the summer or something like that. He's an Ivorian under-23 international who's been playing in Danish football for most of his career, having come through one of these kind of academies that I believe is connected to the club whose name I can't say, that he has been playing for in Denmark. I imagine, like most of us, I don't know a lot about. I knew nothing about him until a few days ago. Do you have any insights into this guy, Scott? What kind of player have we bought?
So from what I've watched, and obviously like from what I've watched off him, technically he looks sound. He's athletic. He's a different type of midfielder from what we've got, to be honest. He's solid defensively. He's got a very good eye for a pass. His vision is tremendous. He's young as well, which is good. That's what I was saying in the podcast earlier on, where it's good that we're going for young players, and we're looking at different markets instead of, like, for example, under Michael Butte, we're going for players down south, like from the Championship, League One. We're not really looking at that market so much anymore, which is good, and we're looking elsewhere. And he's played 100 times, obviously, for his previous club in Denmark. To play over 100 games, and obviously I think he was a captain as well, over 100 times.
Was he? I didn't know that.
I'm sure he was the captain. Yeah, I might be wrong on that, or I think he was a captain for Ivory Coast under 23s. I'll need to double check that. But overall, though, over 100 times to play in the first team at the age of 20 is.
Can you say the name of that team?
Very impressive. And obviously Clement did say he's good for the short term and the long term. So from what Clement said there, it's like he's going to come in, he's going to be a first team regular, hopefully. So, and it's good as well though, this January window, we're not just buying players for like, okay, we're going to get them in just now and then they'll maybe feature next season. He wants players that will come in and make an instant impact and contribute, and that obviously goes with the left back as well. Would he be one that will like play week in, week out? Well, time will tell, but he's not going to be a player that will just come in and then we'll just put him out in loan. He's going to feature in some way, so that's good. Obviously, well, from what I've watched of him and from what I've read of the Monday, it looks like we could have won a watch room here, and I don't want to get too optimistic here because it's very easy to do when you get a new signing, but he looks like he could fit really well in this league. And obviously as well, as I said, defensively he is strong. And when you come into Scottish football, as we all know, John, it's a very physical league, and it's a very combative league, especially in the midfield area. And I think he'll fit in just nicely, in my opinion.
The photographs, he looks like a wee skinny guy. He looks like a wee skinny guy when you see the photographs of him.
He does, but that's the thing. But I know, like, that's the thing. Though I thought that as well. When I looked, I was like, he looks really skinny. But like in terms of like when it comes to like on the ball, very good. But especially when it comes to tackles, he looks like he looks like a guy it doesn't shy away from it, and that's what you want.
Yeah, so, you need that. Yeah. You need that. That'll go down well at Rangers.
Hopefully, surprises as well.
Listen, I'm conscious of time. There's a few things I want to get through. So, from our most recent signing to our longest serving player, who the inevitable news about Steve Davis retiring, that came out last night. It was actually, I don't know if you saw the video that the club released. It was actually quite emotional. I'm not someone who gets emotional about things like that, but I had a real soft spot for Steve Davis. Steve Davis, somewhere, some point, Frankie asked us all to fill in a thing for this, and you had to write things, and I had to write who my favourite player was. And my favourite player was Steve Davis. And he pretty much has been since he signed for us. There is just something about the way he plays, the way he goes about his business that I always liked. It is the end of an era, Scott, and I know that's a phrase that gets used, but this is the end of an era. Steve Davis was signed by Walter Smith.
Yeah.
And that's the last player at the club that was signed by Walter Smith. Steve Davis had been signed by Walter Smith. Steve Davis obviously was at the club prior to 2012 and everything that happened in 2012. Again, that's the last player. Alan McGregor went in the summer and now Steve Davis is gone. That's the last player gone as well. Steve Davis is also one of a very small band of Rangers players who've played in 2 European finals, which is a remarkable statistic. The thing I kind of like about Steve Davis is the ending of Steve Davis, his last act, almost for Rangers, was when he was the stand-in manager and he introduced Ross McCausland to the team. Now, prior to that, McCausland wasn't anywhere close to our first team. In fact, I'd go as far as to say most people thought it wasn't happening for Ross McCausland and he would probably be released in the summer or go on loan to a championship team or whatever. And he introduced Ross McCausland, young Northern Irish player, who has not looked back, who's, pretty much been in the first team since then. And I thought that was quite a fitting ending to Steve Davis' Rangers career. What's your favourite memory of Steve Davis, if you have one?
Oh, I do. Obviously, of course, I love Steve Davis, a Rolls Royce of a footballer. In my opinion, one of the best Rangers midfielders of all time. Honestly, it has to be said. Honestly, you can speak about how great Stephen Davis is all day long, but my favourite Steve Davis memory is there's two that really stand out. Of course, the goal in the League Cup final in 2011, tremendous finish. And the commentary just sticks out in my head. It's fantastic. But the one that really stands out in recent memory was the overhead kick against Celtic in the Scottish Cup. Like, for Stephen Davis at the age of 35 years old, I think he was at the time, to try overhead kick against Celtic and score. It was in the 6-yard box, right? But still, for Stephen Davis to pull that off against Celtic, tremendous. Yeah. So, yeah, it just shows you, like, how consistent he's been throughout his whole Rangers career. And throughout his whole football career, in fact. He's just a fantastic footballer, a real example for young players coming up. He leads by example, the ultimate professional. And that's one thing you hear about footballers, you always hear some sort of scandal going on. They got in bother here and there. You've never heard anything bad about Stephen Davis at all. And yeah, as you said, John, that's the perfect way for him to end his Rangers career, where he came in as caretaker manager, beats St Mirren 3-0, clean sheet. Perfect way to end it. And obviously as well, in the Europa League final a couple of years ago, he scored a penalty in the penalty shootout as well. And that's one, like, not to end on a sour note talking about Stephen Davis, but I just wish he got that European trophy.
Yeah. You just have to get it. You just have to get it as manager.
Yep.
Right, listen, very quickly, we've got an early kick-off tomorrow against St Mirren. St Mirren are in patchy form. They've brought in a couple of players in January from England. And in actual fact, they're having a fairly decent season, sitting fifth. But their form recently hasn't been great. They got by Celtic, they beat Aberdeen. They then beat Queen of the South, I think it was, in the Cup 1-0. They're not playing as well as they were. I know a couple of St Mirren fans and say they're not playing as well as they were earlier in the season. We've beaten them twice this season, including just last month. Who or what do we need to be careful of tomorrow on their trip through to Paisley?
Well, first of all, last time we played St Mirren in Paisley, beat them 3-0, of course, as we just said, talking about Stephen Davis's coming in as caretaker charge. But yeah, in that game though, I think we rode our luck a bit because St Mirren got a man sent off, and that totally changed the tide of the game. So tomorrow will be a very different game. And St Mirren, it is a tough place to go. They will sit back and they will make it very difficult for Rangers, and they'll be looking to hit us in a counter-attack. They've done that. They do that against Celtic, do it against us as well, right? And one player in particular that we need to be wary of is Greg Kelty. He's quick, he's good in the ball, he's got a good delivery on him. So tomorrow I would go with Yilmaz, definitely. I would keep Yilmaz in the team tomorrow because I feel like if we have Borna, I think... no Borna, sorry. If Greg Kelty's playing out right, and yeah, if he's up against like Borna, for example, Borna, he'll run rings around Borna. He totally would. So I feel as though definitely go with Yilmaz tomorrow against Greg Kelty, because Kelty is one of St Mirren's best players. He's and as I was saying, like, he is quick, he's good in the ball, good delivery on him, and he might be quite a thorn in the Rangers, a thorn in the side for the Rangers defence tomorrow. And so yeah, we need to be wary of that. But in terms of tomorrow, in terms of team selection, the only change I would make is I would bring out Balogun. We'd take Balogun out, and I would bring in obviously Goldson, and I would keep Suter in the team. So I feel as though Suter needs to get another 90 minutes under his belt, because he's not long back from an injury. And obviously Balogun, be his age as well, I think you can't play him every single game as well. So obviously give Balogun a wee rest. And that's the only change I would make. I would bring Connor Goldson back in the fold and just obviously keep it Suter, Suter and Goldson, and obviously start with Silva as well. And as we were saying earlier on, John, about bringing on Dessers last 20-15 minutes to be a nuisance in the St Mirren defence's side. So yeah, that's the only change I'll make. But what about yourself? Any changes you would make in particular?
I don't know. I mean, it's away from home. I think you're right. I don't think St Mirren will play a particularly expansive game. I think Hibs at Easter Road have a go. St Mirren at home will play exactly the same way as they would have played at Ibrox. They'll try and hit us in the break. They'll aim for set pieces and try and hurt us with set pieces. And they've had some success doing that this season. So I think getting an early goal is important. I looked at our forward line the other night, and it's small now. Suddenly our forward lines get small. Matondo, McCausland, Silva and Cantwell, we've suddenly got a kind of small, slight, fast forward line, which is a big change. We had a kind of land of the giants at the start of the season. And it'd be interesting to see how that works. Matondo, I think, needs space to run into. He isn't going to get any space. He isn't going to get space to run into unless we go 2 up quite early on. There's going to be no space behind because St Mirren's going to sit in. Even if it goes 1 up, St Mirren will sit in and still aim to try and get 1 at some point. I don't think it's the kind of game that suits Matondo. It'll be interesting to see how Silva does. It'll be interesting to see there. I think it suits McCausland. I think McCausland can play quite well in that. I think he's actually quite good at cutting inside, going past a couple of players and looking for the 1-2. So we'll see. Midfield, Lundstrom will start if he's fit. Be interesting to see who we partner with him. If he goes with Raskin again, or whether he looks for the power of Sterling, somebody like that. Diamante can't play. He's not got a work permit yet. I don't think so. I don't even think he's in the country. So he won't be him. So it'll be interesting to see. I think Balogun will play. I think he'll play Balogun. I think he'll play Redvan. I think Redvan did enough to keep his place. So I think he'll play him. I think Balogun will stay. I think Suter will drop down for Goldson. And actually, I think Balogun and Goldson are probably our best centre halves anyway.
I do agree. Yeah,
so,
I do agree.
I think he will go with them. I think Goldson will come straight back in. We don't have massive choice. With Sima out probably for the rest of the season. I don't know if we'll see Sima again. We don't have a lot of choice. It's Wright or Matondo really. That's your choices. There's not a lot of choice now in the wide areas. So we're just going to have to see.
Can I just say one point before we finish, John?
Yeah, of course you can.
This is one thing that does worry me. See out on the left hand side, you said to me at the start of the window, I would be like, yeah, our weakest area is up front. But now it's definitely out on the left hand side because we're like, what options we got? Matondo, Scott Wright. And this is one thing I've been thinking about, right? I'm not saying I want this, right? But I've been posing this question to a lot of Rangers fans. It's been very mixed. So just say it comes down to deadline day, right? And we need to get someone in, a left winger, right? And we were offered Ryan Kent on loan into the end of the season. Yes or no? Would you take it?
Oh, I would take Kent back, yeah.
I would take him on loan to the end of the season, yeah. And I would personally, say to him to start the window, I'd be like, no chance, I don't like us going back. But we're in a situation now where we need to get a left winger in, and that's our weakest area. I think now, and towards the end of the window, I think we need to prioritise getting a left winger in. Because, obviously, at the start of the window, I was like, yeah, Shankland, that's what I was really wanting to get. That's not going to happen now, right? It's totally not going to happen. But obviously, Clement's a very smart man. He's a very good manager. He knows how weak we are on that left-hand side because if Matondo gets injured...
And he's not had a great injury record since he joined either.
I know, he's another one as well, because that's the thing. If Matondo gets injured, Scott Wright out left, that terrifies me, John. That
would certainly stretch as it has to be said. I don't quite know. Actually, I think what would happen is I think they'd probably put Cantwell Lawrence out left. I don't know. Lawrence might start. I could see Lawrence starting if he's fit. I think Clement prefers Lawrence to Cantwell, so I could see Lawrence starting if he's fit. But we'll see. Anyway, I'm looking forward to the game. It's an early kick-off tomorrow. Just to remind everybody, we're the early kick-off. So all being well, we'll be sitting 2 points behind the league leaders when they kick off. Now they're at home to Ross County, so I'm not expecting a great deal there. But it would be nice to have closed the gap and put a bit of pressure on them. Scott, thanks for your time tonight. I appreciate you had to give up watching the finale of The Traitors tonight. And I know you're
I'm going to catch up and love it, John.
I was going to say, I know you're an avid fan, so I appreciate you giving up your night. And it's nice to meet you. It's nice to speak to you again.
It's been a pleasure, John. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
And to hear all things Rangers. So thanks for coming on. Very quickly, to remind everybody, the podcast is available on a variety of different sources: Acast, iTunes, YouTube, Castbox, Stitcher, and of course Spotify. There will be a pod on Sunday night, usual time. Brian will be there and he'll be joined by David and by Rob. Lastly, if you've enjoyed the podcast, please tell people about it. There will be other episodes with even better presenters, so stick with it. And please visit the Gersnet website if you get a chance. Right, enjoy the rest of your Friday night, guys. Thanks very much.